The human screamed as his teeth shattered on the alien warlord's skull. But the alien did not retaliate. The motherfucker was terrified. It scrambled away in shock and fear. This was a typical day for Sergeant Derek Murphy. At 0300 hours, he had been summoned to an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. Representatives of a dozen alien races lined the grand chamber, eyeing the battle-scarred human warily. Derek could see the fear in their eyes, the disgust. He was used to it by now. "Human, we have no choice but to call upon you," spat the councillor, a spindly Brunali named Xander. His mandibles clicked with agitation. "The Zorgans have stolen an ancient Brunali artifact, the Axiom of Dominion. It grants the wielder power to subjugate and enslave entire species." Murmurs of panic flitted through the alien crowd. The Zorgons were already infamous for their cruelty. "The Zorgan fleet is on its way to the Axiom Forge, where they will use the artifact's power to build an unstoppable armada," Xander continued gravely. "Our own ships attempted to stop them, but the Axiom, it turned them against us, enthralled them to fight alongside the Zorgans." The chamber fell into grim silence. Finally, Xander's gaze locked with Derek's. "We need someone immune to the Axiom's mind control, someone who can infiltrate the Zorgan mothership and destroy the artifact before they reach the forge." He took a shuddering breath. "We need a human, Derek. If you fail, the Zorgans will use the Axiom to conquer the galaxy. Humanity and all other races will be enslaved or exterminated." Derek cracked his knuckles. He'd make the Zorgans regret ever fucking with Earth. Derek snorted derisively. "And why should I help you? Your kind has done nothing but treat humanity like dirt since we joined your little galactic community." Xander's face contorted in a grimace, but he pressed on. "Because, human, if the Zorgans succeed, they won't stop at enslaving the Brunali. They'll come for Earth next." Derek's jaw clenched. He knew the alien was right, as much as he hated to admit it. Xander saw his opening and added, "You're the only one who can do this, Murphy. The Axiom's mind control powers don't work on humans. Something about your chaotic, illogical brains." Derek narrowed his eyes. "So you need us to clean up your mess? Typical." He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed over his chest. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to tell the counselor to go fuck himself. But he knew he couldn't turn his back on this, not with Earth at stake. Finally he nodded. "All right, I'll do it. But I'm doing this for Earth, not for you." Xander breathed a sigh of relief. "Your ship leaves in an hour. We've uploaded all the intelligence we have on the Zorgans to your nav computer. Good luck, human." Derek stood cracking his knuckles. "Luck's got nothing to do with it." He strode out of the council chamber, his boots echoing on the polished floor. His mind was already racing, strategizing, preparing for the mission ahead. As he boarded his ship, a sleek black vessel bristling with advanced human weaponry, he couldn't help but chuckle at the irony. The same qualities that made the aliens look down on humans, their aggression, their unpredictability, their sheer stubborn refusal to quit, were now the galaxy's only hope. He settled into the pilot's seat and began the pre-flight sequence. Switches flipped, lights blinked to life, and the engines hummed to life. The vibrations resonated through his body, a familiar and comforting sensation. Derek gripped the controls, his eyes fixed on the stars beyond the viewport. It was time to show the galaxy what humans were made of. The stars streaked past the viewport as Derek's ship tore through hyperspace. He flicked through the data on the Zorgons, his eyes scanning for any weakness in their defenses. The Galactic Council's intel painted a grim picture. The Zorgons were tech monsters, their ships loaded with weapons that could shred through most of the galaxy's fleets. But then his gaze snagged on a detail, a maintenance hatch, small and unguarded, on the underbelly of the Zorgan mothership. Derek's lips curled into a smirk. His ship was a compact beast, built for speed and stealth. That hatch was his ticket inside. As the mothership loomed into view, a massive construct of gleaming metal and pulsing lights, Derek engaged his cloak. The ship shimmered and vanished, invisible to the Zorgan scanners. He angled towards the hatch, weaving between the occasional patrol ship that buzzed past. His fingers were just inches from the hatch's controls when the alarm screamed to life. Red light bathed the cockpit. "Shit," Derek snarled. The Zorgons had upped their scanning game. His cloak was useless. A horde of Zorgon fighters swarmed towards him, their laser cannons spitting fire. Derek killed the cloak, rerouting the power to his shields and weapons. "All right, you want a fight?" he growled, his hands flying over the controls. "Let's dance." The ship spun and whirled, Derek threading it through a web of laser fire. His own cannons roared to life, missiles and energy beams ripping into the Zorgon formation. The void lit up with explosions as the Zorgon ships shattered under the human onslaught. But for every ship Derek blasted to scrap, 2 more seemed to take its place. Alarms blared as his shield started to crumble. He was running out of options. Derek's eyes locked onto the hatch. It was a crazy plan, a desperate gambit. But crazy and desperate were humanity's specialty. He wrenched the controls, aiming his ship straight at the hatch, and slammed the throttle to max. The Zorgons knew what he was trying to do. Their attack intensified, a storm of laser fire pounding against his failing shields. The ship bucked and shuddered, consoles sparking and flashing red. At the last second, just as his shields gave out, Derek reached the hatch. He didn't slow down. With a bone-jarring crash, the ship plowed into the hatch, its reinforced hull tearing through the metal like a battering ram. Alarms howled and metal shrieked as Derek's ship bullied its way inside, ripping a path into the heart of the Zorgon mothership. Derek's ship careened into the Zorgon mothership's hangar bay, metal screeching against metal as it skidded across the floor. Sparks flew, illuminating the cavernous space in a hellish glow. As the ship ground to a halt, alarms pierced the air. Zorgon soldiers swarmed into the hangar, their weapons trained on the smoking wreckage. The hatch blew open, clattering to the floor. Derek emerged, his face streaked with blood and grime, his armor dented and scorched, but his eyes blazed with determination, his grip on his pulse rifle unwavering. The Zorgons opened fire, a storm of laser bolts ripping towards him. Derek dove for cover, rolling behind a stack of supply crates. He returned fire, his shots precise and lethal. Zorgons fell, their dying screams echoing off the hangar walls. But more took their place, an unending tide of enemies. Derek fought his way through the ship, the narrow corridors a deadly gauntlet. Zorgon tech was everywhere, pulsing with malevolent energy. Automated turrets tracked his movements, force fields crackled to life to bar his path. But he pressed on, undaunted. Earth depended on him. Humanity depended on him. Failure was not an option. Finally, he reached the heart of the ship, the chamber housing the axiom of dominion. The artifact pulsed with an eerie, sickly light, the air around it thick with the stench of corruption. As Derek approached, a figure emerged from the shadows. The Zorgon leader, a towering monstrosity of tentacles and razor-sharp claws. In its grip, a crackling energy whip. "Foolish human," it hissed, its voice like the scrape of a blade on bone. "You think you can stop us? We are the Zorgons, the rightful rulers of this galaxy." Derek said nothing. He let his rifle speak for him. The Zorgon leader's whip lashed out, a searing line of energy. Derek dodged, the heat of it scorching his cheek. He fired, the pulse round slamming into the Zorgon's armored hide. It roared in pain and rage, charging forward. The chamber shook with the force of their battle. Debris rained down, consoles exploded in showers of sparks. The Zorgon's whip was everywhere, a deadly blur. Derek felt it coil around his leg, searing through his armor. He gritted his teeth against the pain, fighting to stay standing. In a final, desperate move, he launched himself at the Zorgon. They crashed to the ground in a tangle of limbs, rolling towards the axiom. With a roar of effort, Derek heaved the Zorgon leader up and slammed it into the artifact. The axiom shattered, a million shards of crystal flying outward. A blinding light filled the chamber, a shockwave of energy rippling out. Across the ship, Zorgons clutched their heads, screaming as the axiom's control was broken. But the shockwave didn't stop there. It ripped through the ship's power core, destabilizing it. Alarms blared, the deck shuddering beneath Derek's feet. He ran racing back to his ship as the mothership tore itself apart around him. Explosions bloomed, bulkheads collapsed. He barely made it, throwing himself into the cockpit as a wall of fire roared towards him. The ship blasted free, the force of the mothership's explosion propelling it forward. Behind it, the Zorgon vessel broke apart, consumed in a sun-bright conflagration. Derek slumped in his seat, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He'd done it. The Axiom was destroyed, the Zorgon threat ended. But as he limped back to the Galactic Council, he couldn't help but feel a sense of bittersweet victory. He'd saved the galaxy, but at what cost? The Council greeted him with a mix of gratitude and fear. They thanked him for his service, but there was an undercurrent of unease. The humans, once thought of as primitive and harmless, had shown their true potential, and it terrified them. As Derek turned to leave the council chamber, Xander caught his arm. "You've shown us the power of humanity," the Brunali said, "and it's a frightening thing. You may have saved us today, but what about tomorrow? Will humanity be content to remain a part of this galactic community, or will you seek to dominate it?" Derek met his gaze, his voice hard as steel. "That's not for me to decide, but know this. We humans, we're not like you. We don't back down, and we don't forgive. Remember that, the next time you think about crossing us." He pulled away, leaving Xander to stare after him, shaken to the core. The balance of power had shifted, humanity had shown its strength, and the galaxy would never be the same. This was why the aliens feared Earth, why they would always fear Earth. As Derek's ship limped back towards Earth, he couldn't shake the unease gnawing at his gut. The Council's praise had rung hollow, their eyes shadowed with fear, even as they thanked him. Something wasn't right. His fears were confirmed as he approached Earth. Alien ships swarmed around the planet, raining destruction on the cities below. Derek's hands clenched on the controls, rage and horror surging through him. The Council had betrayed them. He slammed his fist on the comm. "This is Sergeant Derek Murphy to Earth Defense Force. I'm inbound, ready to engage the enemy. What's our status?" Static crackled, then a voice broke through, strained and desperate. "Sergeant Murphy, this is General Ava Prescott. The situation is critical. Alien forces are overwhelming our defenses. We need all the help we can get." Derek gritted his teeth. "Understood, General. I'm on my way." He plunged into the fray, his ship weaving through the chaos of laser fire and exploding ships. The alien vessels were sleek and deadly, their weapons cutting through Earth's defenses like a hot knife through butter. But Derek wasn't about to let them take his home without a fight. He unleashed everything he had, missiles and laser cannons blazing. Alien ships burst into fireballs under his onslaught, but for every one he destroyed, a dozen more took its place. On the ground it was even worse. Cities crumbled under the relentless bombardment, skyscrapers toppling like dominoes. Screams filled the air, mixing with the thunder of explosions and the whine of alien weapons. Derek joined the ground forces, his battle-scarred armor a beacon of hope amidst the destruction. He fought like a man possessed, his rifle spitting death, his fists and feet crushing alien skulls. Around him, human soldiers rallied, their courage rekindled by his presence. But it wasn't enough. The alien technology was too advanced, their numbers too great. One by one, Earth's cities fell, her armies scattered. Millions perished, the planet's surface transformed into a charred, rubble-strewn wasteland. In the ruins of New York, Derek made his final stand. Amidst the crumbled remains of the Statue of Liberty, he faced down the advancing alien horde, a one-man army against an unstoppable tide. That's when he saw him. Xander, the Brunali counselor, striding through the carnage, his face twisted in a sneer of triumph. "You!" Derek roared, his voice raw with fury. "You did this! You betrayed us!" Xander laughed, the sound cold and cruel. "Betrayed you? No, human. We simply did what was necessary. Your kind are too dangerous, too unpredictable. You needed to be put in your place." Derek staggered to his feet, blood dripping from a dozen wounds. Our place is among the stars, not under your boot. We'll never stop fighting, never stop resisting. You'll have to kill every last one of us." "So be it," Xander hissed. He raised his weapon, a sleek alien rifle that hummed with deadly energy. With a bellow of rage, Derek charged. Laser bolts seared past him, scorching his armor, but he didn't falter. He slammed into Xander, knocking the weapon from his hands, and the two tumbled to the ground in a tangle of limbs. They grappled among the rubble, fists and elbows flying, blood spattering the broken concrete. Around them the city burned, the screams of the dying filling the air. In the end it was Xander who fell, his neck snapped by a final desperate twist. But Derek was spent, his body broken, his life leaking out onto the war-torn streets. As darkness closed in, he could see the alien ships retreating, leaving behind a world in ruins. Earth had fallen, but even in defeat, Derek knew that humanity would endure. They would rise from the ashes, stronger and more determined than ever, and one day they would make the galaxy tremble. For this was the true strength of humanity. Not their weapons or their ships, but their unbreakable spirit, their refusal to submit. It was why the aliens feared them, why they would always fear them. With a final, defiant smile, Derek closed his eyes. He had lost the battle, but the war was just beginning. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.